My academic rival is a chaotic mess who thinks vibes are a business strategy. We got paired for the final capstone project, and I calculated everything except falling in love with her. I'm a man of structure. In a world of variables, I like constants. I like defined KPIs, I like spreadsheets that balance down to the cent, and I like knowing exactly where I'm going to be at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm not a hermit. I have friends. I go to the parties. But while everyone else is doing shots and making bad decisions, I'm the guy making sure the Uber is ordered to the correct pickup location and that nobody leaves their credit card behind the bar. I am the designated driver of life. And then, there is Sophie. For the last 2 years of our MBA program, Sophie has been the glitch in my matrix. She is pure, unadulterated chaos. She walks into our 8 a.m. finance lecture at 8:15, holding an iced coffee the size of a bucket, wearing sunglasses, and somehow charms the professor into forgiving her every single time. She never takes notes. She just sits there, absorbing information by osmosis, and then raises her hand to ask a question that has nothing to do with the math but somehow sparks a 20-minute philosophical debate about brand ethics. She is the idea person. I am the execution person. We have been mortal enemies since the first semester. We were in a negotiation simulation. I had a perfectly calculated offer based on market rates and leverage. Sophie had a smile and a story about her childhood dog. She talked me into a deal that was terrible for my side, and the whole class applauded her for it. You let emotions cloud the data, I told her afterward. She looked at me, grinned, and said, and you let the data kill the vibe, robot. Since that day, it's been war. She thinks I'm a soulless number cruncher. I think she's a reckless improviser who is going to bankrupt a company by age 30. We exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, glaring at each other from across the lecture hall. I just want to finish my degree, land my job in private equity, and never have to deal with her vibes-based decision-making again. But the MBA gods are cruel. It was time for the capstone, the final hurdle. We had to fix a failing company. The professor, Dr. Eris, loves dynamic tension. He believes friction creates diamonds. So, naturally, he looked at the roster, saw the two people who clearly couldn't stand each other, and smiled. Group 4, he announced. Mark and Sophie. I felt my soul leave my body. I looked over at her. She was already looking at me, smirking. Not a friendly smirk, a predatory one. She picked up her bag, which was overflowing with loose papers and candy wrappers, and sauntered over to my pristine, organized desk. Well, she said, dropping her bag with a chaotic thud. Looks like you're finally going to have to loosen up, spreadsheet. And looks like you're finally going to have to do some actual work, I replied, opening my Google Calendar. We meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll book a study room. Please try to be on time. And by on time, I mean 9 o'clock, not 9:15. I'll be there, she winked, assuming the stars align. I hated her. I really, truly did. The first 3 weeks were an exercise in patience I didn't know I had. Our styles didn't just clash, they detonated. My approach was to analyze the company's financials for the last 10 years, identify the bleed, and propose surgical cuts. It was logical. It was safe. It was guaranteed to get us an A-. Sophie's approach was to reimagine the soul of the brand. Mark, look at this, she'd say, spinning her laptop around to show me a chaotic mood board full of neon colors. The numbers don't matter if people don't feel the product. We need a narrative. We need a revolution. Sophie, I'd say, rubbing my temples, feeling a migraine coming on. They have $40 million in debt. A narrative doesn't pay the interest rates. We need to fire the CFO, not hire a graphic designer. You are so boring, she groaned, throwing a stress ball at the wall. You treat business like an autopsy. You're cutting it up to see why it died. I'm trying to keep it alive. I'm trying to be realistic. I snapped. Something you wouldn't understand. And you're trying to be safe, she yelled back. Because you're terrified of being wrong. We argued constantly. The study room was a war zone. Her side of the desk was a disaster of sticky notes, glitter pens, and half-eaten bagels. My side was a sterile operating theater of perfectly aligned notebooks. But, and it pains me to admit this, she wasn't lazy. She worked hard, just differently. While I was crunching numbers in the library until midnight, she was out at bars interviewing actual customers. While I was building pivot tables, she was stalking the company's competitors on TikTok to find their weak spots. She was loud, messy, and frustrating. But every time I tried to dismiss her, she'd bring something to the table I hadn't thought of. The data says their customer base is 40-year-old men, I said during one session, pointing at my chart. Wrong, she corrected, sipping her third latte of the day. I talked to the store managers yesterday. It's actually their wives buying the product for them. The data is lagging. We need to market to women. I check her source. She was right. I looked at her. She was scrolling through Instagram, looking bored. Okay, I muttered, gritting my teeth. Good catch. I know. She smirked, not looking up. You'd be lost without me, robot. I'd be sane without you, I retorted. Then, the curveball hit. 2 days before our final presentation, the professor threw a live case update at us. The CEO of our theoretical company had just been indicted for a massive fraud scandal. The stock tanked 40% overnight. Our entire strategy, which relied on steady growth and reputation management, was instantly garbage. We met in the library. The atmosphere was heavy. I was paralyzed. My logical brain was misfiring. I had spent weeks building a model based on stability, and now there was no stability. I was staring at my spreadsheet, and none of the formulas worked anymore. The variables were all undefined. I can't fix this, I said quietly, my voice tight. The math doesn't work. We have to declare bankruptcy. We're going to fail the project. I put my head in my hands. I felt the walls closing in. I'm not a guy who panics, but I was panicking. Then I heard a chair scrape across the floor. Mark, look at me. I looked up. Sophie wasn't looking at her phone. She wasn't smiling. She looked fierce. Her eyes, usually full of mischief, were laser-focused. Stop looking at the math, she said firmly. The math is dead. This isn't a finance problem anymore. It's a PR problem. It's a human problem. We can't spin fraud, I argued. It's illogical. No, she said, standing up and slamming her hand on the table. We don't spin it. We own it. We pitch a total leadership purge. We rebrand the company as the anti-corruption alternative. We make the transparency the product. She started pacing the room, talking fast, using her hands. The charisma was dialed up to 11. I can sell this, she said. I can walk into that presentation and make the judges believe that this scandal is the best thing that ever happened to the company. But I need you to build a back end. I need you to prove that if we survive the scandal, the unit economics actually work. She stopped pacing and walked right up to me. She grabbed my shoulders and shook me slightly. I can sell the dream, Mark, but dreams are flimsy. I need you to build a foundation under it so I don't fall. Can you do that? I looked at her. For the first time, I didn't see a chaotic annoyance. I saw a partner. I saw someone who had the one skill I completely lacked, the ability to see light in the absolute dark. Yeah, I said, taking a deep breath and opening a new Excel sheet. I can build a foundation. Good, she smiled, and it was blinding. Order pizza. It's going to be a long night. We worked until the sun came up. Around 3 a.m., the library was dead silent. We were sitting on the floor, surrounded by empty Red Bull cans and pizza boxes. The tension had shifted. It wasn't enemies anymore. It was intimacy. Why are you like this? She asked suddenly. She was lying on her back, staring at the ceiling tiles, twirling a pen. Like what? I asked, typing away. So rigid. You act like if you make one mistake, the world is going to end. You check the weather app 3 times before you go outside. I stopped typing. I sighed. I took off my glasses and rubbed my eyes. Because in my world, if you make a mistake, you lose, I said softly. I don't have your magic, Sophie. I can't just talk my way out of trouble. I can't smile and make people forgive me. I have to be right. Being right is the only armor I have. She rolled her head to look at me. Her hair was a mess, falling over her face. She looked tired and soft, and incredibly pretty. You know, she said quietly, you don't always have to be right. Sometimes it's okay to just be present. I don't know how to do that, I admitted. Variables are scary. I could teach you, she said. There was a silence. A long, dangerous silence. I looked at her, and my logical brain, which usually calculates risk, was screaming. High risk event. Do not engage. Maintain professional distance. But for the first time in my life, I ignored the data. Maybe I want to learn, I said. She sat up. She moved closer. Her knee brushed against mine. The first lesson, she whispered, is to stop thinking so much. We stared at each other. The air was electric. I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to kiss the chaos right out of her. But then the janitor walked in with a loud vacuum cleaner, and the moment shattered. We should finish the slide deck, she said, blushing and turning away. Yeah. I cleared my throat, my heart pounding like a drum. Slides. Right. Monday morning. Presentation day. We walked onto the stage. I was wearing my dark blue suit, looking serious. She was wearing a bright red blazer, looking like she owned the building. We were the perfect weapon. I handled the numbers. I was cold, precise, and unshakable. When the judges asked about the debt restructuring, I answered with surgical precision. I gave them the hard truth. Then, Sophie took over. She handled the vision. She walked around the stage, making eye contact, making them laugh, making them nod. She took a disastrous scenario and turned it into a compelling story of redemption. She made them feel it. I watched her from the side of the stage. She was magnificent. She looked over at me mid-sentence and winked. I felt a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. I couldn't help it. I was proud of her. When we finished, the room didn't just clap. They cheered. The professor gave us a standing ovation. We walked out of the auditorium, adrenaline crashing through our veins. We made it to the hallway and just leaned against the wall, breathing hard. We crushed it, she said, beaming. Statistically speaking, I said, loosening my tie, that was a significant outlier in performance. We did good. She laughed and punched my arm lightly. You're such a nerd. Even when you win, you're a nerd. I'm your nerd, I said. I froze. I hadn't meant to say that. My internal filter had failed. Sophie stopped laughing. She looked at me. Her eyes searched my face. Are you? She asked softly. I looked at the data. Fact 1. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Fact 2. I work better with her than anyone else. Fact 3. I was currently standing in a university hallway, wanting to hold her hand more than I wanted my degree. Conclusion. I was done fighting it. Yes, I said. I think I am. Finally, she said, rolling her eyes affectionately. I was wondering how long it would take your big brain to catch up with reality. She grabbed my lapels. Shut up, Mark, she whispered. And then she pulled me down and kissed me. It wasn't logical. It wasn't structured. It was messy and public and absolutely perfect. It was the best variable I had ever encountered. That was 6 months ago. We graduated top of our class. We live together now. And let me tell you, it is a constant battle of order versus chaos. I organize the dishwasher by plate size. She throws things in wherever they fit. I have a savings plan. She buys concert tickets on a Tuesday because the band is a vibe. I label the spices. She tastes them to see what they are. What works? She drags me out of my shell. She takes me to parties and makes me dance, poorly. And I keep her grounded. I make sure she pays her taxes and actually sleeps sometimes. We're starting a business together next month. She's the CEO. I'm the CFO. She's going to sell the dream, and I'm going to make sure we can afford it. So, advice from a logic guy. Sometimes the best things in life don't make sense on paper. Sometimes, you have to close the spreadsheet, ignore the risk assessment, and just trust the chaos.